tick-tock, tick-tock. Are y'all ready to rock?
It's music time! Hello, universe. Welcome to the It's Music Time podcast. My name is Morgan Mitchell.
And I'm Tanner Grover, and this is what we do. And today, we are doing it with Chris Brown.
Hello, Chris.
Hey, how are you? Great to be here. Thank you so much for asking me.
We are so excited to have you on the show. Let's not waste any time. Tanner, jump right in.
All right. Well, for those who don't know, Chris Brown, he is the man, the myth, the legend, the brains, the beard, the hair behind Bull Moose Music, behind Record Store Day, and now behind Chris Brown 33. But before we get into it, we like to start with a little icebreaker. So we're going to play a trivia game, Chris, where today you're going to have to choose between two former Record Store clerks. The name of this game is Berserk Clerk. And two former Record Store clerks, the answer will either be Iggy Pop or Axl Rose. So, Chris, are you ready to play Berserk Clerk?
Sure. Yes.
Question number 1. Which Berserk clerk is thought to have invented the stage dive, first lathering themselves all over in butter before attempting the stunt?
All right. That's got to be Iggy.
Correct.
But the stage diving existed way before Guns N' Roses, right? Easy. Yes.
Nailed it. Number 2.
All right. Which Berserk clerk has served as their own lawyer to defend themselves at multiple trials? Is it Iggy Pop or Axl Rose?
Is Axl that dumb? Yeah. I'll go with Axl, but I have no idea.
2 out of 2. Correct. I love where we're headed here. Number 3. Which Berserk clerk considers Christina Aguilera the greatest vocalist of all time?
Iggy.
Very close. It was Axl.
Very close.
Very close. Number 4.
Which Berserk clerk credits the Chinese practice of Qigong as the secret of maintaining their physique? Is it Iggy Pop or Axl Rose?
Iggy. I'll guess Iggy, just Iggy Pop, because he has a more famous physique.
That's absolutely correct.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
The Chinese democracy thing, I thought I was going to say Axl Rose because of that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Number 5. And the final question here for our Berserk Clerk game. Which Berserk Clerk dance moves were used as the basis of the character Gollum in the Lord of the Rings movies? Who was it? Iggy or Axl?
Wow. I'm thinking of crawling more. Oh, I think Iggy Pop is a more interesting physically mover, whatever. Moves more interestingly. Yeah, I guess go with him. Yeah. I don't remember seeing like a bandana on Gollum, but I've only seen that.
Perfect. You got it. It was Iggy.
Yeah. Gollum never did that shuffle. So, what we're going to do, we're going to have a little twist on something we usually do. We want to quiz you, Chris, and see if you can guess the number 1 Billboard song on the very first Record Store Day. Do you have any idea what it might be?
I'm having trouble thinking of what even came out that year. I don't know. Was it Katy Perry? Can't remember.
Same neighborhood.
That's a very good mid-2000s answer.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan, what do we got?
Okay, it was Give It To Me by Timberland.
Okay, I wouldn't. Yeah, awesome.
On the same radio station, probably.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. friends, listeners, universe, here we go. This is the moment when I let you know all the cool stuff that Chris Brown has been up to since the beginning of time. So sit back, relax, and I'm just going to read through this spotlight. Chris Brown is a music, business, and marketing consultant. After working in music, movie, and book retail for 31 years, he offers marketing support and business strategy to artists, record labels, and distributors. He headed marketing for one of our New England's most beloved bands, Bull Music Brands, one of New England's most beloved brands, Bull Music, the notorious, the one and only, for more than 25 years. During that time, he invented Record Store Day, and helped introduce countless artists to music fans throughout New England and the USA. He often appears on television, radio, and in print. He recently completed a 21-year run on WSCH6 and WLBZ2 Portland's and Bangor's NBC affiliates. Chris Brown, welcome. And again, thank you so much for being here with us on It's Music Time.
Oh, well, thank you so much for asking me. This is exciting.
So, Chris, we want to get into what you're up to right now. But before we do that, we were wondering if you could tell us your backstory. We want to know who a young Chris Brown was. What were you like as a kid? Obviously, music is your life's passion. But we want to know, what were some of your first musical memories? Were you in bands growing up? And what was kind of the pathway that led you to start your storied career at Bull Moose?
My very first memory at all involves music. So it's kind of cool. If you really want to go all the way back, I was conceived after my parents returned from the opera. So
that is so cool.
It was when it was performed at Port Opera 10 years ago or so. Both of my sons were in the chorus, that's
wow,
very cool. So kind of came full circle. So, when I was somewhere between 1 and 2, I have this memory of being extremely frustrated because I wanted my dad and his parents to put on a record that I really wanted to hear, but I could only describe it as Baby Likes Best. So they're pulling out all my grandfather's records, trying to figure out what it was. And they're asking, well, what does it look like? What does the cover look like? Do you remember anything about it? And I knew that the label on the record was purple, but I didn't know the word purple yet. So I couldn't describe it. I could see it in my mind, but that's how young I was. And it turned out to be, I think I have it. Hold on. The very copy, no, I don't. That's silly of me. Well, anyway, it was a Bach record. It was the Brandenburg Concertos. So I started out with hearing a lot of classical music. Would have, been one of those babies who's taken to the symphony because both sets of my grandparents had tickets. And, but it was one of those symphonies where it was a symphony orchestra where they would always play one new work. So, probably heard John Cage, live when I was 1.5.
Oh my God.
But I also was given a record player when I was very young and played a lot of 45s. And the ones that really grabbed me were, there was one by the Beatles, which became a huge deal for me going forward. My relationship with the Beatles is almost more like I learned maybe who I was or what a man ought to be from the Beatles, but also Yoko Ono for sure. Big influence on me. When I would read books about the Beatles when I was quite young, like 7 or 8, and at that time, people were still making fun of Yoko and not really, it was fun to bash her or whatever. So they would talk about some of her writings and things she had done as, oh, she's crazy, this weird artist. And the thing is, when you're little, that kind of stuff just seems cool. You know, like a lot of one of her records, there's a little postcard that says there's a hole in it, and it says a hole to see the sky through. And just has a little pirouette. Right? That makes sense. It's just a hole to see the sky. What do you guys find weird about this? You know, but of course the point is, you look through it and it puts a frame around whatever you're looking at. So it turns the sky, which always looks nice, into art.
Wow.
Right? So I was around some professional artists, so creativity was always around me, not just music. But I started taking music lessons when I was 6. When I was 10, I joined a professional choir, and we toured and recorded an album, and that was all over by the, when my voice changed, that was the end of it, because I was a soprano. But probably did 200 paid performances by the time I was 15. I mean, it was a church choir, so 40 times a year, and we would make it was around minimum wage. And so I would get to the church, I would get my pay packet, and then I would go a block away, walk over to Woolworths and buy records.
Woolworths, that's a throwback.
It was back when, there was music in department stores. Every department, they had a perfume counter and, record counter and stereo.
Yeah.
Department. But it was
so where was home? What school system did you come up in?
It was in Utica, New York.
Utica, New York. Okay.
Yeah. And I started off in a cooperative school. It was part of the free school movement, which I don't think is really a thing right anymore. And but all the parents were involved. Part of your tuition was your parents would volunteer. So I got to know, my dad was very involved. In fact, he ended up marrying the mother of one of my best friends who we met through school. So all the parents were really involved. So our art teacher was a professional artist. And actually here is here's a sculpture I made.
I adore. That is so cool.
You like that?
Yes.
What happened was I was really frustrated because I couldn't make anything that was representational. I couldn't make a troll or whatever, I had a hard time writing, making a straight line, anything like that, which is funny because I can play musical instruments with no problem, but I could never do that. I can't text well on a phone, just something about. So anyway, I couldn't make anything that I wanted. So I just decided I was going to make something ugly.
I love it.
And I actually was hoping that it would explode in the kiln. I didn't even want it to exist.
It's
but now
quite advanced though. You were able to have a lot of dimension, that didn't break apart in the kiln. That's a pretty impressive. How old were you?
Probably around 7.
Yeah. Okay. That's really cool.
But it was a very supportive environment. So they kind of met every kid where we were.
Beautiful.
And, there were so it was it was great for me, because I could just get up and if I was bored in my math class, I could just get up and go to the next math class up and see what they were doing. One year, the science teacher saw a dead fox by the side of the road. So he just scooped it up and we then we had a biology lesson, impromptu, let's dissect a fox, and it smelled terrible. But it was really cool. It was really a great environment. And then I went to public school and it was it was good for public school. But there was all the racism, sexism and stuff that you found in schools in the 70s and 80s, and pretty intense, kids getting beat, but it was okay. It wasn't okay, but it was okay, right? Everybody knew, and it was accepted, even though you shouldn't be. It's not, they shouldn't have been having fun paddling us, but clearly it was enjoyable. So anyway, yeah. And so I came here for college. I came to Maine for college, and never really wanted to leave. It's everybody's a lot more open here. I noticed that where I grew up, people tended to be kind of suspicious of you, but here it was much more more like you have to prove that you're a problem in Maine, I think, as opposed to where I grew up, where it was more like prove to me that you're not a problem.
I see.
Huh. Okay.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
feel
it's a
like
great,
that's an overall. I feel like a lot of people from Maine or that have been around Maine have that same sentiment in a lot of ways, you know. And maybe it's that old, you know, you see it on the way across the bridge, the way life should be, but maybe we're doing something right up here. I don't know.
So then how did your sort of school career and then going to college, how did you land in Bull Moose? What was that transition like?
well, I had applied at the record store in the so I already had a big record collection as a kid. Bought a lot of records,
Okay.
and was doing music, but record collecting was a thing for me. So I applied at the mall store when I was in high school. Didn't get that job. An independent store opened up when I was, whatever, the summer I graduated from high school. I didn't get a job there. So by the time Bull Moose opened, I was already used to applying, I guess, to record stores. So I was working at 7-Eleven, and I was third cook at Maine State Music Theater. And then that summer was the summer that somebody opened Bull Moose right in Brunswick, which is where I was. That's where I was for school. And it was another Bowdoin guy who started it. It was a year ahead of me. So I just worked there for a couple of years, left when I graduated to try to have a career in music. And but then after about 4.5 years after I left, he called me up and asked me to come back, because at that point Bull Moose was starting to blow up. And I was there from then until 4 months ago.
Incredible.
So I just, we're not just music people. I mean, I watch a lot of film as well, and I just rewatched the movie Empire Records, which came out in '95, and that was kind of right around when I think Bull Moose started in, was it 91? Is that right?
89.
89. Okay. So it's funny, and that's just it's like this bygone relic of a idea, but it's still going strong today in Maine in 2025. Bull Moose is. But I mean, what was it like kind of in those early mid 90s years, and like you started to have, your larger chains almost like putting smaller, businesses out of business? Like, did you feel any of that pressure, or was it always just more of an expansive thing?
Yeah, we were growing, but also in the years that I wasn't here, that was when Walmart came to Maine and started aggressively trying to capture a lot of the CD sales and cassettes. So I wasn't here, but I knew that Bull Moose weathered that. I had a lot of respect for the founder, and so he navigated the two stores through all that and figured out how to sort of grow when there was significant competition. So a few years later, when Best Buy came to town, we were hearing from our contacts in the music industry that they were bragging that they were going to put us out of business. And we literally laughed. We thought that was the funniest thing. And so, it's cool to see they don't even sell music anymore. And here's Bull Moose still there. I'm proud of Bull Moose, even though I'm not part of it. I love the fact that that's the case. And there's been steady growth in Maine. So in the early 2000s, so in the 90s, just in general, a lot of big like mall chains expanded like crazy. So, your typical mall in the 80s or 90s would have 2 record stores in it, right? And by the early 2000s, that was just more than were needed. So a lot of those chain stores were closing. But the indies at that point were growing. It wasn't just Bull Moose we grew through that whole period, but other places, other indies were as well. And that was part of what I wanted to do with Record Store Day, was tell that story of, wait, hold on, indie labels are doing great, indie stores are doing awesome. You know, it's just the chain stores and the major labels where all maybe you remember those times. Remember, there was a lot of doom and gloom. Like it was like all the stores are closing. Nobody wants CDs. Nobody even likes music anymore. It was kind of how it felt. So,
Wow.
you know, I wanted this national promotion, I guess, to remind everybody that you know, stores are still doing great. Music's important. We all still love it, you know. And as a result of that, a new generation of store owners kind of started cropping up a little bit after that. And now, you know, I'm one of the older people in the industry, and there are all these people doing, you know, cool things. A lot more women-owned stores, a lot more Black-owned stores, and there was very, very few stores not owned by white men in the 90s. So what that means is, well, you know, anytime you have more options, right, you get new perspectives. It strengthens the whole community, you know, because the more people have a place to call home, it's great. It's great. I'm so excited by it.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
So, can you talk for a moment just a little bit about the very first Record Store Day and just how you conceived the idea, how you felt it went, you know, just in the moment, and then when did you kind of realize, like, hey, I mean, this thing could really be pretty, you know, wide-reaching? Like, when did that all manifest?
Okay, so I was talking about the Beatles earlier. And
Yep.
so one of the things that I learned from them is that if you work really hard, something big can happen. Right. And so coming back to Bull Moose, like we worked really, really hard to make sure everybody who would like Limp Bizkit or Eminem, right, or Smash Mouth would know about it. We worked really hard, and we worked really hard to support local bands. We worked so hard on Rustic Overtones. And so when we get to 2007, which was when I proposed Record Store Day, I knew that it could be big. I hoped that it could be big, and the person who did most of the work in terms of corralling other stores and getting the record labels on board and artists and all that stuff. When he's the person I proposed it to, and when we talked about it, we we're both like, this could be really big, and so we hoped anyway. And some of the record labels were kind of like, what a crazy idea. Why would you want to do that? And a bunch of them were like, some of them were like, well, like, we'll give you a little bit of money to try to have a website and whatever. And some were just like, no, that's a stupid idea. So, but we believed in it. And there was sort of a group of about 200 record stores that were all kind of doing things together. And we had we collaborated on some indie exclusives, as we call them, that were exclusive to us before Record Store Day. So we're kind of laying the groundwork for this. And so like a couple of them were concerts we recorded at the Scarborough Bull Moose and then released commercially, things like that. So I thought there'd be about 200 stores because that's who we've been working with, but there were 600 the first year. And Metallica did a signing in San Francisco at their local record store that first year. And we thought it would take a few years before somebody at Metallica's level would want to get involved, but you know, they embraced it immediately. So the first one was bigger than we initially thought. That's all. felt great. And there was a convention a couple weeks later, so we were all together, sort of just recapping what happened, and it was very much like, what did we just do? What happened? You know, what it was. There was more love shown for us, I guess, than we expected. It's really what it was. And at that point, we proved it, and more people wanted. You know, at that point, the record labels were more helpful, wanted to do things, and it worked out. I guess that's all I can say. It worked out, you know. But it was it took a lot of work on somebody else's part, not mine, to get everybody on board. But you know, people were ready for it. You know, it was the right idea at the right time.
So good. So I have a question about just drawing on all of your wisdom from all these years, from honestly in the womb through today.
Okay, sure.
An appreciator of music, a practitioner of music, a, you know, disseminator of music, all of these things. What wisdom or advice or bits of knowledge would you share with the youth, people coming up now in a different age, with streaming platforms, with TikTok songs, with XYZ, you fill in the blank?
Okay.
What sort of wisdom would you impart to the younger generation as it aligns with your philosophy on music or how to appreciate music?
Are you thinking listeners or musicians?
Great question. Perhaps listeners initially and musicians as well.
Sure. Okay. Right. So I think that, I mean, music's everywhere. And I think that people generally understand that music makes any activity better. Right? Because we have it at funerals. We have it when we're, you know, getting romantic with somebody, sports games, you know, any kind of party. If you're mad, you want something. If you're sad, you want something else. So a lot of people have it on all the time, right? And with streaming, where they decide for you what you want to listen to, or whatever, you know, based on whatever they know about you, you can have it on like all the time and not even turn it off. It's not like you have to flip a record or change the CD or whatever. So we know this, and so whatever is making people feel great is the kind of music I think they ought to be listening to. You know, I don't. You know, I think that that's a very personal choice, and like you mentioned, Empire Records earlier. You know, there was a feeling at one time that people in record stores were judging people and were you cool enough to shop here and all that stuff. You know, I think we've just gone way past that. But we're also at a point where young folks are much more, I think, comfortable just being their true selves in public, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to hide your sexuality or gender identity now the way that you used to, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, you know, whatever, like music is a lot. There's no, I want to try to say is like people, I reject the idea of a guilty pleasure. You should not be guilty about the music that you get pleasure from. Just go for it, right? However, people should, you know, and so I see a lot more people talking about how bad Spotify is for the music industry, how people don't get paid, or they barely get paid, except for, you know, the people at the very top. So what that has done is it's made it much harder for somebody else to make music as a career, right? So think of someone like Pink Floyd. They had a couple hits in their like around the time of their first album, but then their lead singer had to leave the band for health reasons, and but the record label carried them for years using Beatles money, but still, until Dark Side of the Moon, I mean, there was this trajectory, but they wouldn't, like, I don't know if you could get Dark Side of the Moon now, because a band like that wouldn't be given 6 years to figure themselves out. Right.
Sure.
They would have been dropped as soon as Sid Barrett was out of the band, they would have been dropped. So the tricky part is, how do we get more money into artists' hands, right? And it's not through selling T-shirts. It's not, having a clothing brand or, getting a sneaker endorsement or any of that stuff. That's not the core product, right? Like, if musicians have to make money from other things that are not music, then they're distracted, and they should be making music all day long. Like, it should be their job, not, you see what I mean? Using that as a way to become a celebrity so that people want to buy their shoes. I mean, I'm glad that happens, and they need that money. But you see how that's fundamentally different, right? You go to a restaurant because they have food that you want to eat there. That's what you get at a restaurant, right? You don't go to a restaurant because what am I trying to say? You don't get a restaurant because the people who work there are famous for something entirely unrelated, right?
Sure.
Yeah, it's like the Planet Hollywood effect.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And a celebrity chef is famous for what? Maybe they're on TV, but they're famous for their food and the presentation and the way they run a restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take that anywhere else, shoe store. Why do you go to Lamy Wellahan? They have shoes. You don't go to Lamy Wellahan because I don't know, for whatever reason, I don't know, because you're from Lewiston and the family. I don't know. It's so, but what's happened with music is the core thing that people, like music itself, it's hard to get paid for that. And the problem is, if you adjust it for inflation, whatever people pay for streaming is kind of like, it's like buying a tape every other month in the 90s, and that's just not enough. That's just not enough revenue to support everything. So some music fans, that's all the money they have, and they can't afford it, but that's the, that's the reality of it, right? So when musicians talk about how important it is for people to buy physical music, it's because you buy a CD, you could buy a CD or stream that album 20,000 times. That's the same amount of money for the artist, right? The problem is that if you can't make a living as a musician, people just, a lot of musicians that you may know are also actresses or actors, or they are visual artists. They're just going to have to, they can't support themselves with music. They'll turn to another creative pursuit.
Right.
So it's we lose the future, right? And the free and low cost tools that people now use to make music, like on a laptop, like all the software, that was developed using money paid for by professionals, right? Recording studios. I have this, whatever, that cheap little mic interface that you may have on your desk below the screen there. I've got one right over here. I don't know, what did I pay? $250 for it. But the reason that they can charge so little for it is because they're using technology that was developed for recording studios when they were paying, $250,000 for just a big version of that,
Mm-hmm.
So where's the future? I don't know, but it's like anything else. If you starve it,
right,
you have only weeds left, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this conversation, a lot of this wisdom, it's pretty much, a lot of it is in line with some of your consulting services with Chris Brown 33.
Mm-hmm.
So could you just tell us maybe a little bit about this new endeavor. I mean, you're working with artists, and I know you've submitted for our encore presentation.
Mhm.
Dominic Lavoie, we're going to share a music video by him, which we're
Yes.
really excited about. But yeah, I mean, so tell us about this endeavor and new artists that you're really excited for in 2025.
Yeah, I'd love to. I have really been enjoying re-immersing myself in the live music scene in Maine. So I, back in the glory days of the CD, every artist that in Maine that was worth knowing about, or whatever it means, was at a certain level, they all had their CDs at Bull Moose. And so since I was the one who was signing the checks, paying artists, I knew every band that was popular. Now, lots of those artists either never make a CD or they don't put it at Bull Moose. So there was a period there where I kind of lost touch with the scene. So I have been going out to a lot more shows, sometimes 2 in the night, because I want to see the opening band here, and then I want to see the headliner somewhere else. And that's been great. And I've also been paying a lot more attention to the singles people have been releasing. Now, so part of that is just it's more fun, but part of it is, I'm looking for kind of that next generation of artists who could use some help. And, they have great music, great songs, whatever, but with help on the business side and on the marketing side, maybe they could be a lot better known or quit their day job at least, or, people all have different goals. And so what I thought that I would be doing for people was mostly around marketing and PR, and also consulting with people on physical releases. And so sort of how do you use, you have to use streaming. There's an important discovery thing there where people can find out about you through streaming, but you have to do it in a certain way so that it doesn't kill your physical sales. So I had a lot of thoughts about that, and thought that I would be really focusing on those 3 areas. However, people are asking me for like everything. So like literally everything, like, can you help me set up, like one band needed help with setting up their in-ear monitors, so they could hear better on stage. Now I found somebody who could do it for them, but that's not like, I didn't go over there and read the manual,
Yeah.
So it seems that I am handling some of the functions that an artist's manager would, but these are folks who don't have management yet. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. But I'm helping somebody figure out what they're going to do with vinyl in 2026. There's a band that needs help just getting their live show better. Their recorded music is amazing, and they want to get their live show up to the same level as what they're doing in the studio. So, that's a whole process I've got figured out. There's somebody else where helping people figure out like what's their musical direction. Because, some musicians listen to a ton of music, some don't, and they're kind of in their little area. So, those are some of the things I've been doing, but other people need help getting better gigs. And so that's, there's a whole strategy to that. So, maybe I'll end up opening instead of a marketing company, maybe in a year from now, I'll be doing artist management. I don't know. But people keep telling me that's what I should do. So, because there's really nobody in Maine exactly taking that on, or not enough people doing it. So I'm sure you've seen that, a band that like, why are you playing here? You're so good. Well, why aren't you famous?
Sure.
There's something Sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm helping, and that's really fun. And what is so when I was in retail, I felt really strongly that the people on the commerce side, which is where I was, should not get involved in the art. Right? That's usually a bad thing. Cheapens it if you are trying to play to whatever we think is best for the store. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, make a cover that makes it easier for people to tell what kind of music you are. Sometimes people want a little more mystery on their covers, or they painted it themselves, or whatever it is. You don't want the store telling people what to do. But now I realize that I can and maybe should be doing that. So I'm thinking much more deeply about artists and their music, really analyzing it. So like Dominic Lavoie, you just mentioned, is one of my clients. And so to prepare to literally write a press release about his album, I studied it. Like I listened to it all the way through, took notes on the music, and then I said, send me your lyrics. And I listened to it twice more, reading the lyrics, trying to really put this together so I could really understand it. Do either of you work in jobs where you're getting sales information? Like, hey, order this toothpaste because, it's extra fluoride. This is why we should stock it at your, that kind of stuff.
Well, my family runs a hardware store, so we get, suggestions.
Okay.
Yep. So I understand that.
Yeah, and I used to work in advertising, so similarly. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. This is great. So you guys kind of know what I'm talking about here. So Tanner, have you ever seen? There's a new product. Makita's got a new kind of saw, but whoever wrote the sell sheet, doesn't really explain why you need this. Why is this saw better than the one you've been selling for the last 20 years?
Yes.
Okay. So at music stores, and remember, we also sell books and movies. Sometimes it's like you get this thing, it's a whole page, and you can't even tell what kind of music it is. Literally no idea. Is this hip hop? Is this rock? Is it spoken word? I have no idea. It happens way too much. And that's just because whoever was banging those things out, they didn't themselves know what kind of music it was, probably, but it really matters, right? Even within a genre, like, is it death metal or black metal or thrash or, metalcore? To the bands and the fans, it matters. They have to, you have to get that right. So that's why I spent so much time on it. So much time. But it was also great because I was interested in it and I love his music, and it, going deeper into it, I've always respected Dominic as an artist. I mean, I've known him 20 years, but it enabled me to really think about this album, and he's making a statement about what midlife feels to him, what being in his 40s feels like. And having just changed careers, I kind of am in a similar place. So it was very, very pleasurable, but also what I felt I needed to do to represent him properly.
Sure.
Even though I had to listen to him for 4 hours, all afternoon one day, but I loved it. It's a great album.
It's a deep dive, and what a beautiful thing to be able to really do justice, give the music the space it needs to breathe and to be received in that way, to take in the creative process, to understand the intricacy of the piece of art that someone made, and it does require a lot of presence. And so often music is in the background, music is kind of accompanying other things. So that's such a beautiful, valuable service you're offering people to, first and foremost, really receive and hear what they have crafted and created on those many levels, and then be able to bring your wisdom and advice around it. It's I'm really excited to see where you go with this and all the people that are touched by this work, because it's a really needed service in this state. I mean, everywhere, but especially here.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. I'm really curious to see where I'm going to be in a year or two.
Goes.
I mean, helping it's like
I love
hear-
that. We had Tommy C on the show.
Yeah, I saw that. I watched some of that
Yeah,
episode.
and that his sort of ethos of like literally see where it goes, right,
Mhm.
with his show on CLZ. But we talked so much about creative process and the evolution of process and things that happen, and we all kind of aligned on that, like most of the good things in life are, you know, set in motion with some kind of intention, and then they evolve over time depending on the needs and the influences. And that's the magic of art and creativity, I think, is like there's the human element, the cognitive element, and then there's kind of everything else that happens to really set it ablaze, you know?
Yeah, that's really well said. That's a great observation. Yeah, but I guess you love music and think about it too, because here's your podcast.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, that's great.
So
And Tommy,
on that note,
yeah,
kind of go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking that there's a brief Tommy and the WBLM, the station that he used to be on, has a really important place in record store history, which was John Densmore, the drummer from The Doors, when he was ready to release his second book. He couldn't get the publishing deal he wanted, so he decided to just release it, kind of self-publish it, but used, instead of doing a book tour of bookstores, he did a book tour of record stores. And so the first one was here. And so part of that was I brought him to WBLM at 9:00 on that morning. Oh, also, I couldn't tell anybody about it. So I emailed the captain, who's the boss, in addition to being the morning show host, and said, hey, there's a drummer you play every day. I can't tell you who it is, but I'm trying to get him to come to Maine. It's looking good. Will you interview him? Can we give him an hour? And he's just like, yes. And then he started trying to guess who it was. But anyway, finally I could say, oh, it's John Densmore. They're like, great, this is great. So the thing is, they treated him so well that word got around. So the following year, Mike Mills from REM wanted to do an event somewhere on the East Coast. Wow. And so when the ask came, they said, so Mike Mills, we're thinking about bringing Mike Mills to, but can we get him on that same radio station? And then the same thing happened with Graham Nash. And I know Tommy was there for the Graham Nash interview. I can't remember if he was there for the Mike Mills one, but there's a picture of Graham Nash and Tommy and me, you know. So
oh my God.
His understanding of music, like it's hard to know what somebody's influence is going to be, but you know, it helped internationally.
Incredible.
Yeah, and that's just from him. Like,
all the stories you must have. I mean, like, I imagine the culmination of so many incredible moments through the history of working in the ways that you did. Bringing us to our next section really is a moment. You know, you've had many profound moments in your life, meeting people, playing music, being surrounded by music, promoting artists. What is one musical moment that moved you to tears? So this could be sad tears, happy tears, overwhelmed tears. The tears could have come from hearing something that caught you off guard, or maybe it was a live performance that made you well up. So what music brings on these waterworks for you? What moment?
Most recently, this was 2 weeks ago, one of the father from one of the families at the school that I went to when I was so young, in fact, his wife encouraged me to do this.
Love it.
He was a professional artist also. I went back home for an exhibition / memorial for him. He passed away a few months ago. And he was a huge, you know, just one of those people who was around in my life, but also he was an abstract artist. So, whatever. We've all had people like that in our lives, right? You know, your parents' friends or your friends' parents, where they just turn you on to so much. So he was one of those people for me. The music following, there was like an hour of people talking about him. And I learned stuff where I realized that he had a bigger impact on me than I understood, because it's like, oh, that's where that came from. Oh, wow. But the music played afterwards was played by my very first music teacher. Wow. And she played a piece by Eric Satie that my wife often plays here. So
wow.
At that point, it was just that, everything came around, and I was like, I buried the right, a little water here. So I felt like this huge love for my wife just bubbled up, and I was like, wow, I guess I married the right person.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It really, but that whole experience reminded me of like how I want to feel the rest of my life, just
well
surrounded
said
by creativity, and because all these folks were just like, hey, make something and we'll appreciate it. Just go make something. Let's make stuff. Let's be curious.
That's the best. Make something. Let us appreciate it. That is like right there. That's like the root of the root, as they say. Truly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's what all this stuff is.
Beautiful. Yeah. What about you, Tanner?
Jeez, yeah. So a moment that made me cry. So I'll talk about one brief for you, one extended, because I think I'm still crying today. In concert, I went once upon a time, 2007, I believe, to the Orpheum to see the Arcade Fire, and I went with a lot of friends, probably about 15 or 20 of us, and I think I'm an elder millennial, and we all try to find that band that is our Beatles. What's the band that speaks to us and represents our generation? And in 2007, we were all very convinced it was Arcade Fire. And I didn't think I was going to get emotional, but they played the song In the Back Seat. And for whatever reason, I teared up at that. So that was one isolated moment, but one extended moment. So you talked about Mike Mills and him coming to a record store day. So I'm this immense REM fan. I grew up with REM.
The biggest fan.
And so I had never seen him live, right? And in 2008, they came to, I don't know, it's whatever that place in Massachusetts was. It was like Great Woods or something at some point. So they're playing a show, and I'm in a wheelchair. So wheelchair seating is kind of not always the best in certain venues. But I was a member of their fan club, so I wrote David Bell, the head of their fan club. I was like, hey, I was just wondering, if you might be able to hook me up with a halfway decent seat for this show. And he goes, well, how would you like a seat on the side of the stage, and you can meet the band and all this?
Okay, wow.
Right.
Really?
Okay. For real, yeah. And unfortunately, I got pneumonia the week of the show.
Oh, no.
So I couldn't go. So I never got to see him live. And then I was thinking, all right, I know they got one more album on their record deal. 2011 will come around. They released Collapse Into Now, but then they never toured, and they called it a day as a band. So I never got to see him live. So I shed a tear about that every day.
Yeah.
There's some way for you to meet some of the band members here, though. That's like, I'm holding out for that. That's like I'm gonna try to. We will not die until that happens. That's how I feel.
Manifest destiny somehow.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel.
I wish I still had their lawyer's phone number.
Yeah,
right.
I have a road crew number still in my phone. I've never called it, but the day I was supposed to go, they were like, call this number. I still have it. So maybe someday I'll get brave and give it a shot.
I think today's the day.
I mean, it's maybe something like, the baseball project or some side project, something like that will end up here. I think they've played here.
Have they played in Maine? The baseball project?
Definitely New England, because I remember being like, oh darn, I should have seen them last week. You know, like how did I not find out about this show? Because
Right.
Yeah.
we're cool. We're cool. What a cool band.
Well, if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Morgan, how about you?
I cry a lot. So I listen to music and cry a lot. It's a very, like, music's a very visceral experience for me. It's not an uncommon thing. It's sort of like a borderline synesthesia, like, you know, we'll kind of get inside a song. I also do a lot of collective and community painting to music. We paint in a circuit of easels, and so there's a lot of kind of abstraction and really sensory experiencing music from like color and shape. And so in that way, I cry all the time. But most recently, I just gave birth to my daughter. She's 3 months old. And thank you. And while I was pregnant, I listened to a ton of music. And I was looking for music that was sort of like child inspired, like parents or expecting parents, like, did they write music? And of course, I eventually stumble upon Beautiful Boy by John Lennon, which was on his very last album about his son, Sean. And so I listened to that a ton, that and Carly Simon's song, Child of Mine. And so listened to these songs a lot and compiled them on kind of like a playlist. And so as I'm giving birth to my daughter, I'm listening to these songs in the hospital. Of course, we're all crying. And even the like midwife and nurse that were there, they were like, we're listening to Carly Simon. Oh, we're happy. Yeah. Everyone's like having a whole moment. So it was just really, that was beautiful and most resonant. I think Beautiful Boy especially. I mean, you can just hear the love for these people's children in their songwriting and lyrics, but Beautiful Boy especially, and just like the sound of the waves at the end, and you know, and then reading interviews with Sean and how much that song meant to him after his dad died. It just makes me cry thinking of, you know, giving birth to a beautiful being, and I had a daughter, but that resonant feeling of like someday she'll be on the planet and I won't, and just kind of the way he composed that song is just so exquisite. And so I listen to it and weep quite frequently.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. It's a big bite for sure. All right. So moving on to the Mix It Up playlist. This is a portion of the show where songs are presented by our guest and by ourselves that then are compiled onto a playlist that folks can listen to after the fact, get a sort of little window into the brains and hearts of our guests. What song did you want to talk about, Chris? I don't remember what I emailed Tanner last week.
I don't remember what day it is most of the time.
All right. Oh yeah, you were on copy. Well, let's go with. Oh yes, of course. Have to do this one for Tanner. This is dedicated to you, Tanner. It's there's a musician from Warren who signed to like a solid indie label. Her name is Louisa Stanchoff, Stancioff, and I'm just kind of starting to get to know her. I helped her get onto Resurgam, and anyway, her most recent single is a cover of an REM song.
Hey!
So it's Strange Currency. So and I love the way she sings it. So how about that?
That's amazing.
I listened to it. I was glad you chose to talk about that, because it is a stunning rendition. I think anyway. And there's a great music video she made too.
Oh yeah, where she's kind of like in the water.
Yeah. It's very Maine, you know, and just a great interpretation of that. I loved it.
Cool.
Yeah. And there's a kind of the way she says, "You will be mine." there's just a little bit of like lust or something in there, or certainty, because she has that very it's a very pretty voice she has, but she puts a little bite in there that I think is just mature way of singing. I get, it's just impressive technically. And be like, oh, that's a cool place to take the song, as opposed to like Michael Stipe. Don't you? I think a lot of time he sounds pretty distant from whatever he's saying.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, on that album, I think especially too, because that's a glam rock album. That song was on Monster, and Strange Currencies. That song in particular is it's kind of an outlier, I think, for the rest of the album because it's ballady, But he's definitely in character for that entire album. So that's definitely not him. But I love it. I think she did phenomenal. What was her name again?
Louisa Stanchoff.
Louisa Stanchoff.
It's pronounced Stanchoff, but it's Stancioff. The CI is a hard C.
Sure.
So people say Stanchoff or something, but you don't pronounce the I. It's like Bulgarian.
Okay. Beautiful. Tanner, what about you?
So the song I want to highlight is called "Think I Pass," and it's from an artist, Broncho, or it might be Bronco. It might be Bronco, actually. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. But they've been around since, I want to say, 2010. And this is off their new album that came out in April of this year. And how would I describe Bronco? Effortlessly cool. So
okay.
I feel like I am not cool. I feel like I'm a try hard, Maybe I'm cool at times.
But you're very cool.
But these people, these artists, they're from Oklahoma. And they just, I don't know, whatever they do, it's just cool. And it's indie rock. It's a little lo-fi. Their singer, his name's Ryan Lindsay, and his voice is very distinct and kind of wispy. They're a little REM-ish at times, but I think they're more like, I don't know, if like REM met the Talking Heads and you just kind of mashed them together. Maybe.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, they're just cool. And this song, "Think I Pass," I don't know what it's about. Do I think I pass, the eyeball test? I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to say. It's just cool. That's all I know. So, Morgan, how about you?
I wrote one song on the paper and then I'm going to do something else. I really love an artist called Alice Phoebe Liu. She's a South African singer-songwriter. She lives in Munich. She came to Portland once and I saw her and I thought I was going to lose my mind because I had followed her since middle school and just was so in love with her work. She's very deep. Her vocal sort of range is unbelievable. She's an incredible musician, just a true force, and collaborates with some really interesting people. She's toured all over the world. So yeah, I would say like her albums are albums to really sit and listen to with your eyes closed and like really go through. There's just so much depth. Her lyrics are very poetic and just, musically very advanced and layered. So I picked a song called Dusk, but truly I could say any of her songs at all. And they're very moving and thought-provoking while being catchy enough to really like be that thing you wake up singing and at midnight as well. So she strikes an interesting balance. But yeah, Alice Phoebe Liu, Dusk is the song that I chose. Yeah.
I wrote both of those down, even though I know you're going to make a playlist. I just want to dig in sooner.
Oh, yeah. No, we're going to share this with you right after we're done with this recording. It's a fun list. I've gone through it. I've gone through all of our selections, and I think it's one of my favorites.
It's a good listen.
It's pretty solid.
So before we wrap up, we want to make sure people know where to find you. Chris. So social media and online, your website, chrisbrown33.com. So your consulting work, your work with artists. And then let's see, we've got chrisbrown33_45, which is Instagram. And is I seeing this LinkedIn?
That link tree. That's a link. Yeah. And what I can't remember what my link tree handle is. You've got it in front of you.
Yep. It's chrisbrown33 is what.
Oh, good. That was available. Awesome. But what I have up there are links to. I've been to help myself keep track of all this great music from Maine. I have a public playlist. It's links to Apple Music and Spotify playlist that I'm like constantly going through it. Like every sometimes a couple times a day, I'll come across another great song by somebody from here. But I keep it short to like 35 things and rarely have something on there for more than a couple of weeks because I'm trying to make it like what's happening right now.
Aha. Beautiful.
So you got to stay up to date. You got to go to that link tree and subscribe to that playlist.
Absolutely.
That would be that would be cool. Because the whole that'll help all those artists, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Every one of them I think is making cool music, and I would love it.
Yeah.
A little further. Yeah.
That's invaluable. So chrisbrown33.com, chrisbrown33 linktree, and Instagram chrisbrown33_45. As for us, we're the It's Music Time podcast. We're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. But before we leave,
don't touch that dial. We have an encore performance from one of Chris's dear friends and clients, Dominic Lala. This is going to be the music video for 121 Charlie Watts, one of the best drummers of all times. I'm not entirely sure the context of the song, but
I'll tell you. Can I explain it?
Absolutely. Please.
Okay. Yeah. So 1.21 Charlie Watts is the title of the song. And Dominic wrote it around the time Charlie Watts died. But it's also, if you know, 1.21 gigawatts from Back to the Future.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Okay.
Right.
So there's some connection there.
Yes. And Dave Gutter is singing on there, and so is Kenya Hall. So it's like and they're in the video. It's great. Dave's kind of creepy in it, I think, but he's a really good actor. So
I like the video. I'm excited to share.
Oh, excited. Great. Well, make sure you stick around, guests, for that. You don't want to miss it. So we're here. We're at the end. This was a beautiful episode. We're so grateful for you, Chris, for taking time to bring your wisdom, to bring your knowledge all these years. And, it's extraordinary what you've done. You've left such a legacy. I don't know anyone in Maine who doesn't know what Bull Moose is. And I'm not exaggerating. It's such an institution. It's such a comfort. It feels like home to me. Going into one of Bull Moose music stores, it feels like home. I feel like, okay, things are right in the world. I can walk in here and buy a record or a CD and support local artists. And I just thank you we thank you for doing the hard work. I know it wasn't always easy to advocate for these artists and for music. So deep thank you for that.
Oh, wow. It's nice of you to say that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a huge thing you all have done. So see you next time on the It's Music Time podcast. Consider leaving us a review, share with a friend. We love
join me in subscribing.
Exactly. Right. All those things you have to say, like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. In the meantime, stay cooler than cool. Chris Brown, thank you so much.
Thanks,
see you soon.
This was really fun.
Bye.
Thank you.
one charting place.
1.21 Charlie Watts.
I set up the power.
The It's Music Time podcast is an independent passion project produced by Tanner Grover and Morgan Mitchell. The theme song for this podcast is by Ben Shepherd, the artist known as Yay Yay. Find him on Instagram at Yay Yay Music. Thanks for tuning in to the It's Music Time podcast. See you next time.